Hello, good afternoon. We are the Group 1 and we will report on Western imperialism in Asia. So to know Asia was changed due to the imperialist ideas of the Western in 18th century. So together with me is Ms. Agustin, Ms. Bacolod, Ms. Baguio, Ms. Bahana, and Ms. Bides and Ms. Bonhoc. So what we'll discuss on our report will be the definition and the concepts of imperialism, uh, the private business companies such as the Dutch East India Company, British East India Company. Third is from the India Act of 1784 to early nationalist aspirations, such as Sepoy, Rebellion, Indian Nationalist Movement, and All India Muslim League. And the last one will be the French Indo-China. So let's start with the definition and the concept of imperialism. So ano nga ba yung imperialismo? So ito ay batas or paraan ng pamamahala kung saan ang malalaki o yung mga makapapangyarihang bansa ang naghahangad upang palawakin ng kanilang kapangyarihan. Sa pamamagitan ng pagsakop o paglulunsad ng mga pagtabad at pagkontrol ng kabuhayan at pampolitika sa ibabaw ng iba't ibang bansa. So, nandiyan po sa may definition, imperialism, state policy, tinagalog ka lang po kanina, practice or advocacy of extending power and dominion, especially by direct territorial acquisition or by gaining political economic control of other areas. Yan. So why did imperialism happen? So imperialism is a result from a complex of causes in which is varying degrees of economic pressures, human aggressiveness and greed, the search for security, the drive for power and prestige, nationalist emotions, and humanitarian and many other factors are effective. So the influence of and imperialism of Western Europe and associated states such as yung Russia, Japan, and United States, peak and Asian territories from the colonial period beginning in 16th century, substantially reducing the 20th century decolonization. So it originated in 15th century search for trade routes to the Indian subcontinent of Southeast Asia that led directly to the age of discovery. Later po, ito actually makikita nyo dito yung background niya, yan po yung tinatawag na age of discovery. Pag-discover sa iba't ibang places where the other nations tried to look for yung iba nga po dito yung sa spices, ganyan. So, and additionally, the introduction of early modern warfare into the Europeans first called the East Indies and later the Far East. By 16th century, the age of sail greatly expanded sa Western European influence and nag-develop siya dahil nga sa dito yung sa trading ng mga spice ng under ng colonialism before. Ayan. So European political power, commerce, and culture in Asia gave rise to growing trade in commodities. A key development in the rise of today's modern world or free market economy. In the 16th century, the Portuguese broke the overland monopoly of the Arabs and Italians in the trade between Asia and Europe by discovery of the sea route to India around the Cape of Good Hope. Yan. So the ensuing rise of the rival Dutch India Company, which is later pag-usapan, expound namin kung ano to. Gradually eclipsed Portuguese influence in Asia. So Dutch forces first established independent bases in the East, most significant sa headquarters ng Dutch India Company. And then between 1640 and 1660, wrestled in Malacca, Ceylon, some southern Indian ports, and lucrative Japan. Yan. So imperialism oftentimes involves the use of military and economic power and always aims for expansion in collective or individual domination. So yun nga po yung sabi ko kanina sa isa sa mga concepts ng imperialism. So more of involves nga military and economic power at ang Mostly ang goal naman talaga nila is more of dito, yung expansion ng kanilang pag-dominion nila or pag-overpower sa ibang bansa. As I've said kanina, the economic, actually political theories have debated whether yung imperialism ba, yung benefits nito, the states that practice in, and whether such the benefits or the reasons justify a state of pursuing imperialist policies. Some theorists, such as Niccolo, hindi ko na nilagay din sa slide, such as Niccolo Machiavelli, have argued that imperialism is the justified result of the natural struggle for survival. Others have asserted that imperialism is necessary in order to ensure national security. Yan. For them to have a necessary in order to ensure the national security. Nabanggit ko kanina, the Dutch India Company, o the mga private company. Dutch India Company, ano nga ba ito? Dutch East India Company by name of United East India Company or Dutch, ko na po alam kung paano siya basahin. It's a trading company founded by the Dutch Republic or present-day Netherlands po today in 1602 to protect that state's trade in the Indian Ocean to assist the Dutch War of Independence from Spain. The company prospered through the most 17th century as the instrument of the powerful Dutch commercial empire in the East Indies. So the Dutch government granted this company, a trade monopoly in the waters between the Cape of Good Hope at the southern tip of Africa and the Straits of Magellan between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, with the right to conclude that treaties have native prices to build ports, and maintain armed forces and to carry on administrative functions through the officials who were required to take an oath of loyalty to the Dutch government. So under this administration of forceful governor generals, most notably si John Peter Zoon Cohen and Anthony van de Mien, the company was able to defeat the British fleet and largely displace the Portuguese in the East Indies. In 1619, the company renamed Jakarta or Batavia, and now ngayon, ang tawag natin sa kanya ay Jakarta, and uses it as a base to conquer Java and the outer islands. By the late 17th century, the company had declined as a trading sea power and had become more and more involved in the affairs of Java. By 18th century, the company had changed from the commercial shipping enterprise to a loose territorial organizations interested in the agricultural produce of the Indonesian archipelago. So toward the end of the 18th century, the company became the corrupt and seriously in debt. The Dutch government eventually revoked the company's character, and in 1799 took over its debts and possession. So I'll wanna call Miss Christine to talk about the East India Company naman.
Ayan, thank you so much, Coach Jeric. So I'm Christine Mayvidas, and I'm going to discuss the East India Company. I can't open my cam because I have an internet problem, but yeah, the East India Company was an English company formed for an exploitation of trade with East and Southeast Asia and India. So, bakit nga ba na-establish itong East India Company? So, itong company na ito ay nagtitrade sila ng mga kagamitan sa India and Southeast Asia. So, this company is also being success after na-establish, and politics were involved in this act. So the East India Company was initially created in 1600 to serve as a trading body for English merchants, specifically to participate in the East India spice trade. So later on, nag-add din sila ng mga ibang items such as cotton, silk, indigo, saltpeter, tea, and opium to its wares and also participated in the slave trade. So the company eventually became involved in politics and act as an agent of British imperialism in India from the early 1700s to the mid 1800s. Ayan, so as what I mentioned earlier, it was been established from 1600 to serve as a trading body for English merchants, so specifically to participate in a East India spice trade. So next slide po again. So even na involved na yung politics dito sa company and they are being successful na at marami na ring products or spice trade ang nangyari, the East India Company still failed. So why did they fail? Although it started as a monopolistic trading body, the East India Company became involved in politics and act as an agent of British imperialism in India. So a number of things contributed to the end of East India Company. It acquired control of Bengal of the Indian subcontinent in 1757, and as the company was an agent of British imperialism, its stakeholders were able to influence British policy there. So this act eventually led to government intervention. So the Regulating Act 1773 and the India Act 1784 na madidiscuss din later established government control of political policy. So the company's commercial monopoly was broken in 1813. 1813, and from 1834 it was merely a managing agency for the British government of India. So it lost the role after the Indian Mutainis on 1857, and then noong 1873 naman it ceased to exist as a legal entity. So next slide po. Ngayon naman atin namang tatalakayin ang tungkol sa India Act of 1784. Next slide please. So itong Pitt's India Act 1784, it is named after Prime Minister William Pitt the Younger. It established the dual system of control by the British government and the East India Company, by which the company retained control of commerce and day-to-day administration, but important political matters were reserved to a secret committee of 3 directors in direct touch with the British government. This system lasts until 1858. So yeah, as what the presentation mentioned, it was named by after William Pitt the Younger. So itong Act na to, it is made as a distinction between the commercial and political activities of the East India Company. So they are connected. So actually, it is also recognized as the East India Company Act 1784. So this Act was introduced to the flaws of Regulating Act of 1773 and also to increase the East India Company's accountability to the British Parliament. So Pitt's India Act established as a system where the British government and the British India Company shared dual control of India. So this act continued in effect until 1858. So one of the drawbacks or disadvantage of this act is there are no clear boundaries between the responsibilities of the Board of Control and the Court of Directors of the company. The Governor General had to take on the spot decisions exercising his discretion. So for the further information, it will be discussed about Tricia Bonhoc.
Ayan, Sepoy Rebellion. Next po. So, brief background lang ng Sepoy Rebellion. So, Sepoy Rebellion, also known as Indian Mutiny, also called Sepoy Mutiny or First War of Independence, widespread but unsuccessful rebellion against British rule in India in 1857 to 1859 began en route by Indian troops or sepoys in the service of the British East India Company. It spread to Delhi, Agra, Kanpur, and Lucknow. In India, it is often called the First War of Independence and other similar names. So, during 1820, introduced sa India yung dominance ng British pagdating sa politics, economy, and culture. Gumamit sila ng iba't ibang tactics para maagaw yung control sa mga states. Pinalitan din nila yung Indian aristocracy. Isa sa mga techniques or tactics na ginamit ng mga British ay yung doctrine of lapse. So, ito ay ginamit ni Lord Dalhousie no 1840s. So, ano nga ba yung doctrine of lapse? So, ito yung pagbabawal sa isang Hindu ruler na mag-ampon ng tagapagmana kapag siya ay namatay. So, kumbaga, pag ang isang Hindu ruler ay walang anak at namatay siya, hindi siya pwedeng mag-ampon para magkaroon ng heir to the throne, ganun. So, noong late 1857, dito na tayo sa Sepoy Rebellion. Noong late 1857, isang sepoy na si Mangal Penny, inatake niya yung mga British officers sa military garrison sa Barakporo, Bengal. Inaresto siya and pinatay ng mga British in early April. Also, in late April, yung mga sepoy troopers sa Mirot, tinanggihan nila yung Enfield cartridges. So, ano nga ba yung Enfield cartridges? So, ito yung part ng Enfield rifle na ginagamit ng mga British and inintroduce na nila ito sa mga Indian troopers. So, bakit nila tinanggihan yung Enfield cartridges na yun? May rumor kasi na kumalat among the sepoy troopers na yung lubricant nung cartridges na to ay gawa sa taba o yung lard ng baboy at mga baka. So, once na kinagat nila yung dulo, kasi kailangan nila kagatin yung dulo para to load out yung mga bala ng rifle. So, ayun nga, may rumor na kumakalat among the sepoy troopers na yung ginagamit daw na lubricant dun sa cartridge is lard o yung taba or yung mantika ng baboy at baka. So, once na kinagat nila yung magkabilang dulo, magkakaroon syempre ng oral contact. And yung oral contact na yun, parang it's considered na insulto sa Muslim and Hindu since ayun nga gawa sa baboy, sa taba ng baboy at baka yung lubricant. So ayun, yung rumor na yun, wala talagang evidence na totoo yun. Pero mas lumala yung perception ng mga troopers na ayun nga, mantika yung ginagamit dun sa cartridge. And sinasabotahe ng British yung traditional Indian society. So yung mga tumanggi na troops ay kinulong na matagal. Dahil dun sa punishment na yun, yung ibang mga sundalo ay nagalit. So yung mga British officers na naka-duty doon, binaril nila. So pumunta sila ng Delhi, na doon sa Delhi wala pang European troops na naka-base doon. So sinakop na yung Delhi, kumampi yung ibang local sepoy troopers and ang mas malala doon, pumapatay sila ng mga kababaihan and mga bata. So dahil doon, yung mga British na-alarma sila. So ayun, as a punishment doon sa mga sepoy troopers, binaril sila or pinasabog sila gamit yung kanyon. So next naman is yung Indian nationalist movement.
So, what is Indian nationalist movement? The Indian independence movement was a series of historic events with the ultimate aim of ending British rule in India, which lasted from 1857 to 1947. The Indian nationalist movement, even in its early days, had increasingly made a large number of people conscious of the evils of foreign domination and of the need for fostering patriotism. It had imparted the necessary political training to the educated Indians. It had in fact changed the temper of the people and created a new life in the country. So, since India was ruled by since India was ruled by the British government, nag-come up sila with the solution na mag-establish ng nationalist movement wherein nationalism emerged in 19th century. British and India both in emulation as a reaction against the consolidation of British rule and the spread of Western civilization. Yung Indian national movement was the first movement that shook the British, and national movement itself paved the path of independence for India and its people. Nationalism serves and played an important part in constructing the history of India and Indian national movement. Next slide po. Establishment of Indian National Congress, INC, and its objective. So let us define first what is INC. So INC, or Indian National Congress, was founded in 1885 and the largest and most important national movement of its time. It was a broad-based party that encompassed all sections of society. Its main aim was national unity, self-reliance, and social inclusion. So there are three, and the first one is national unity. National unity of India was the INC's primary goal. The party believed that a strong and united India would be able to withstand British rule and achieve independence. Next one is social inclusion. The INC was also committed to social inclusion. The party believed that all sections of society, regardless of caste or religion, should be given equal rights and opportunities. Next one is self-reliance. The INC advocated for self-reliance, or the idea that India should be self-sufficient and not rely on foreign aid. The party believed that India could achieve this goal by developing its own industries and agriculture. The INC was a powerful political force in India during the early 20th century. The party's ideology of national unity, social inclusion, and self-reliance helped to shape the course of India's history. So, since yung Indians started to become aware of the British implementation of control on the lives of the citizens and resources of India, people started to understand how yung British government was compromising the well-being of the country of India and only focused on the development of Britain. Next po. Okay na po kuya. Influential figure of Indian nationalist movement. First one is Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma was a key factor for the independence for India. He was a peaceful leader and is known for his civil disobedience that influenced the world. He is the man who did not believe in violence to achieve greatness. He was later nicknamed Mahatma for Great Soul. The leader known for his calm compassion and courage in the life of oppression wasn't always that way. So, Gandhi, which was considered as a living embodiment of nonviolent protest or satyagraha to achieve independence from the British Empire's clutches and thereby achieve political and social progress. Gandhi is considered the great soul or the Mahatma in the eyes of millions of his followers worldwide. His fame spread throughout the world during his lifetime and only increased after his demise. Mahatma Gandhi thus is the most renowned person on the earth. Next po. Next one is Jawaharlal Nehru. Jawaharlal Nehru became the charismatic leader of Indian national movement under the guidance and leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. He inherited the legacy of Indian national movement post-independence and became a revered political figure in India after India gained independence. So, pinangunahan niya yung transformation of modern India state with his progressive economic, political, and social reforms. In 1950, under his leadership, the Constitution of India was adopted and made India a sovereign republic nation. He won successive elections with a landslide margin in 1951, 1957, and 1962, and remained a popular figure amongst the Indian masses until his death in 1964. So, to sum it up, the nationalistic feeling assisted India in gaining its freedom. The introduction of Indian national movement helped Indians revolt against the Britishers, which further spread the feeling of nationalism all over the country. India could achieve independence after spending 200 years under the British control. It was only possible because of the feeling of nationalism. The nationalistic feeling led led Indian national movement. Therefore, the Indian national movement plays an important role in the independence of the country of India. Next reporter is Lisel Jane Bacolod.
Moving on, now we are going to discuss the All India Muslim League. Next, please. What is All India Muslim League? All India Muslim League is a political group that led the movement calling for a separate Muslim nation to be created at the time of the partition of British India, 1947. The Muslim League was founded in 1906 to safeguard the rights of Indian Muslims. The Muslim League was an important topic in the Indian struggle for independence. The party arose out of the need for the political representation of Muslims in British India, especially during the Indian National Congress sponsored massive Hindu opposition to the 1905 partition of Bengal. As we all see in the presentation, ang flag na ito is similar sa Pakistan. It's because the national flag of Pakistan was based on the original flag of the Muslim League. Next slide, please. Now we are going to introduce who is the founder behind this league. The founder is Nawab Sir Khwaja Salimullah Bahadur, who was the fourth Nawab of Dhaka and one of the leading Muslim politicians during the British rule in India. He proposed the formation of a Muslim political party, and on 30th December 1906, a new party was launched at the Dhaka Educational Conference. This party was known as the All India Muslim League. Next slide po. So the other founders of this league is Sir Aga Khan Sultan Muhammad Shah, Syed Amr Ali, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Vikar ul Mulk, and Khan Bahadur Ghulam. All these people are some of those who gave life to this organization called the All India Muslim League. Next slide. The objectives of this league: to create among Muslims the feeling of loyalty towards the British government, to safeguard the political rights of the Muslims, and to convey the same to the government, and to prevent the rise of prejudice against other communities of India among the Muslims. So lahat ng objectives na to nagpapakita na ang gusto ng league na to is ma-represent ang needs and aspirations nila, as well as maprotektahan at ipaglaban ang mga karapatan ng Muslims sa communities. Next slide po. So about the league, at first the All India Muslim League was encouraged by the British and was generally favorable to their rule, but the organization adopted self-government for India as its goal in 1913. Despite of the encouragement na binibigay ng British, nanatili pa rin ang league na ito as self-government. For several decades, the league and its leaders, notably Muhammad Ali Jinnah, called for Hindu-Muslim unity and a united and independent India. Si Muhammad Ali Jinnah, isa siya sa mga kilalang tao sa league na to. In fact, siya nga ang president ng league. So he was the one proponent for Hindu-Muslim unity. However, it was not until 1940 that the league called for the formation of a Muslim state that will be separate from the projected independent country of India. Hindi natuloy yung ganitong actions because the league was quite afraid na baka maging dominante or mangibabaw yung mga Hindus sa India. So they advocate for a separate nation for the Muslims. Next slide po. Jinnah and the Muslim League led the struggle for the partition of British India into separate Hindu and Muslim states. And after the formation of Pakistan in 1947, the League became Pakistan's dominant political party. So sa taong din yun, napangalanan ng All India Muslim League into All Pakistan Muslim League. But the League functioned less effectively as a modern political party in Pakistan. Then it had a mass-based pressure group in British India, and hence it gradually declined in popularity and cohesion. After the partition of India and the establishment of Pakistan, the All India Muslim League was formally disbanded in India in December 1947. In the elections of 1954, the Muslim League lost power in East Pakistan, which is now called Bangladesh, and the party lost power in West Pakistan, which is now Pakistan, soon afterward. The League was officially succeeded by the Pakistan Muslim League. By the late 1960s, the party had split into various factions, and by the 1970s naman, it had disappeared altogether. Now, may I call on to the next reporter, please?
So good day everyone. I am Sandra Nicole P. Agustin and kasama natin ngayon si Jasmine Valerie Bahana at kami po ay magtatalakay na French Indochina Imperialism. So ang French Indochina ay binubuo ito ng apat na country na kung saan ang France ay kinolonize ang tatlong country na ito, which is ang Vietnam, Cambodia at Laos. At ang susunod naman na parte ay i-discuss ni Ms. Jasmine Valerie Bahana.
So, gaya nga po nilang sinabi ni Miss Sandra is kinolonize nung French yung tatlong bansa which is yung Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. Pero bago pa po nila sakupin yung dalawa, mas binigyan pansin or mas kinolonize na nila yung Vietnam at sumunod na lang yung Laos and Cambodia. At pagtapos nilang i-colonize yung tatlo, lumabas na yung katawagang Indochina Frances or yung French Indochina. So, bakit nila kinolonize or bakit nila sinakop yung tatlo is to gain more labor, production, and financial wealth. So, katulad lang po ng mga alam natin kung bakit kinocolonize yung iba't ibang bansa is mas gusto nilang mapalago yung financial growth nila or yung financial growth ng bansang sumakop sa tatlong bansa which is yung French. Mas gusto nila lumago yung kanilang production gamit ang tatlong bansa ito. At may halin tulad po natin yung pananakop nila sa pananakop na ginawa ng Spain sa atin noon rin. So next slide.
Ayan, before tayo gumawi sa kabilang parte, ay added information din na noong ang France ay nagkaroon ng interest sa Vietnam na kung saan kinonvert ng France ang mga tao dito into Catholicism. Na kung saan alam naman natin na ito yung way nila or like this is one of the way nga ng pag control sa kanila or like pang-brainwash ng mga European to their to the countries na kinocolonize nila. Ayun. Yung countries ay ayun nga, belong siya sa Indochina kung saan ito ay tinawag na Indochina dahil nasa pagitan sila ng India at China. Kumbaga nasa gitna sila. And ayun, kinolonize sila noong from the late 1800s hanggang 1954. And umabot ng 350 years na ang France ay tuluyan ng nagkaroon ng control sa tatlong bansang ito. Si Napoleon Bonaparte, ang emperor ng France, ay pinag-utos sa mga militar, sa kanyang militar, sa French military, na i-invade itong southern Vietnam kung ang mga church leader at capitalist ay gustong magkaroon ng bigger share sa mga overseas market kung saan dahil ganid nga ang mga France, dahil yun, ganid ang mga French. They want na most ng beneficial economically benefits ay dapat mapunta sa kanila. Kasi they want supremacy. They dapat sa kanila yung mas malaki. And ayun, mostly ng when it comes to government naman, mostly lahat ng positions or like the most important, like mga executive positions ay kontrolado ng France kung saan they are trying, they tried na ipwersahang ibigay o ipalunok sa mga tao, native peoples ng tatlong bansa na ito, yung kultura na meron sila. Gaya na lang ng ginawa sa atin ng mga Spanya. Siguro ganito na talaga yung trappings ng mga European, ano. Ito yung magpresahan nilang ipalunok sa atin yung culture na meron sila kung saan, ayun, yung bad na nangyari sa atin is nakalimutan natin the where is our culture? Like, kung saan tayo nagmula. Ano ba talaga yung kultura na meron tayo before pa dumating itong mga European. Ano? So, ganun din yung nangyari sa kanila na persahang um, tanggap yung culture ng mga France. And also yun, yung mga raw materials, ayun, kung bakit nila, nasabi din ni Jasmine kanina, kung bakit um, kinolonize ng mga French is yung ayun, prioritize labor, production, and financial gain kung saan nagkaroon talaga yung mga French merchants or mga ngalakal ng mga France na magkaroon ng um, they want this area. They want these three countries because madami silang benefits sa tatlong countries na ito kung saan um, sa mga French merchants, mapapalago nila yung merong negosyo na meron sila. Like, for example, yung rice, coffee, tea, and rubber. Ito yung mga raw materials na sobrang gustong-gusto ng mga French merchants sa bansang ito, sa mga lugar na ito. And gusto ng French government na magkaroon ng strategic presence sa Southeast Asia. Ayan. Ayan. Doon na po tayo sa next part, Miss Jasmine.
So sa next part naman, yung mission, may ginawa silang mission or parang tumatak sa isip ng mga French or ng mga European na may isa silang mission. Ito yung civilizing or civilizing mission. So nakapaloob lang dito sa mission na ito na yung French imperialism ang mission is to develop yung mga undeveloped na areas sa Africa and Asia. And also to introduce the contemporary political ideologies, social reforms, industrial techniques, and cutting-edge technology. So pinapalabas nila na mas may karapatan sila or mas may kaya silang palaguin or i-develop yung tatlong bansang kinolonize nila. Kaya nila ito kinolonize. So, ganun din po yung parang sa pag-colonize sa atin ng Spain na parang pinapamukha sa atin na parang wala tayong sariling or undeveloped tayo. Kaya kailangan nila tayong i-develop. So, ganun po yung ginawa ng French sa tatlong bansa na dinevelop nila, binigyan nila ng mga government, which is yun nga po sinabi ni Sandra, na yun sa government is puro French lang din po yung namalakad sa kanila. So parang lumalabas po dito na gusto lang nila na parang ipamukha sa tatlo na bibigyan nila ng developed country or mas papalaguin nila yung country pero in fact po isa own satisfaction lang po nila yung lumalabas dito kasi marami rin po naging negative impact sa pag-colonize sa kanila. So mamaya po mas lalo natin pag-uusapan yung positive and negative impact ng pag-colonize nila. So Miss Sandra. So, ayun po, gaya nung sabi ko, yung positive and negative effects nung pag-colonize ng French sa tatlong bansa. So, unahin po natin dito is yung economic development. So, unang-una pa lang po, kung bakit daw nila colonize yung tatlong bansa is to gain more labor and economic development. So nagawa po nilang mas bigyan or mas pausbungin yung economic development nung tatlong bansa ito dahil mas nabigyan trabaho yung mga nasa lower class na mga tao sa tatlong bansang ito. And also yung mining industry na which is meron na rin ang tatlong bansa na ito at mas pinalago lang ng mga French. And also ito, yung pinakagustong-gusto ng French is yung agriculture with the system of large plantation of rubber, rice, and tobacco. So kagaya po ng sinabi ni Miss Sandra, ito po talaga yung mga gusto ng mga naman ng mga mangangalakal or ng mga French na nabigyan pansin or na bakit nila kinolonize yung tatlo is mas pinalago po nila yung mga raw materials nung tatlo which is yun nga po yung rubber, rice, and tobacco. So, Miss Sandra.
Ayan. Added positive effects of French Indochina sa imperialism is yung nagkaroon ng economic progress ang tatlong bansang ito. Ngunit, ang nag-benefits lang ay ang French. Yun yung positive effects sa tatlo wherein nagkaroon ng economic progress. Pero ayun, yun nga, ang nag-benefit ng mostly is yung France, kung saan dahil sila yung namamalakad, sila yung nagkocontrol, sa kanila din dumadaan lahat ng mga buwis or like ang mga nai-import na na-export sa kanila din dumadaan. So lahat ng mga benefits na dapat para sa mga tao ng tatlong bansang ito ay wala. So ayun. Yung small wealthy class ng Vietnamese nagkaroon naman ng benefit economically pero sobrang liit na percent lang ng mga tao kung saan parang 0.5 lang siya sa lahat ng tao sa Vietnam. And also since mga wealthy class na to so bakit pa sila kailangan bigyan ng um, ang financially or like magkaroon ng benefits economically wherein mas deserve ng mga nasa lower class yung benefits na dapat sa kanila kasi sila yung naghihirap. And also sabi nga kagaya ni Miss Jasmine kanina na yung agricultural system nagkaroon ng development wherein ayun yung irrigation works primarily in the Mekong Delta kung saan nakatulong ito para mapalago yung irrigation and mapalago yung land masses ng sa pagpapatubo ng mga bigas like mga kanin. Yun din, kagaya kanina din ang sabi ni Jasmine, nagkaroon ng development when it comes to infrastructure and other issues, for example, like medical care, transportation, communications, and education. Na, ayun nga, nagkaroon naman ng benefit, pero hindi talaga lahat. And sobrang, aminin na natin, napakaliit. Parang kagaya lang din to sa atin na we're in. Yes, merong development na naganap noong Spanish era sa atin. Nagkaroon tayo ng medical care, transportation, communications, and education. Pero limited lang. Or like, hindi talaga equal yung pagbibigay ng benefits ng mga improvements or developments na binibigay ng mga colonizer sa mga bansang kinolonize nila. Ayan. And Miss Jasmine for the negative effects.
So, papasok naman po tayo ngayon sa negative effects. So, yung low wages and overwork, connected na po yan. Or pati yung health issues, connected na po yan silang tatlo. So, yung low wages is because sa pagtatrabaho po nung ginawa nilang trabahador or yung mga nasa low class ng tatlong bansang ito, is in-overwork po nila, pero yung mga binibigay po nilang sweldo or binibigay po ng French government na sweldo sa kanila is hindi karapat-dapat or ka-question po dahil ang haba po ng trabaho na ginagawa ng mga manggagawa nila sa plantation or kung saan man pong companies or buildings or infrastructures sa bansang ito. Pero yung binibigay po nilang sweldo or yung kapalit ng trabaho is hindi po sapat at mostly mga pagkain lang po or yung mga ginagawa lang din po nilang trabaho. Which is yung sa rice plantation nga po, minsan po is yun lang po yung binibigay sa kanila, mga kanin or mga breads lang po. So napaka mali pong na ginawa nila yon dahil overwork na nga po yung tao or mas pinapalagahan na nga po ng mga manggagawa yung trabaho nila pero hindi pa rin po nila binigyan ng sapat na sahod yung mga manggagawa nila. So parang katulad lang din po sa nangyari sa atin nung sinakop tayo ng Spain na may ginawa rin po yung Spain na system or like yung polo servicio na binibigyan lang din po yung mga manggagawa natin ng mababang sahod or mga pagkain lang po yung binibigay nila. So, bababa naman po tayo ngayon sa health issues dahil nga po overwork yung mga manggagawa nila is magkakaroon na po ito ng mga health issues na which is hindi na sila makakapagtrabaho in the near future dahil po sa hindi sila masyadong pinapakain sa pagtatrabaho at tuloy-tuloy lang po yung pagtatrabaho nila. Papasok na po dito yung mga karamdaman na mas lalong lalaki or in the future hindi na po sila makakapagtrabaho or mas mawawalan po ng manggagawa yung mga plantation na hindi na rin po parang nagiging useless na rin po yung lagi nilang sinasabi na financial gain or labor or like production kasi nga po hindi naman po nila mas binibigyan pansin yung mga manggagawa nila. Mas lalo lang po nilang binababa or hindi po nila tinutuunan ng mas lalong pansin. Mas pinapayaman lang po nila yung mga nasa higher class na po na which is mali kasi dapat po mag-focus sila sa lower class. So, misa.
Ayun, and other added information po for the negative effects of French Indochina imperialism is yung ayun nga, nagkaroon ng exploitation of the peasantries or slavery na kung saan nagkaroon ng overwork and hindi nga nila deserve yung kita na nakukuha nila through this work. Kung saan yun, 15 hours tapos no break, 'di ba? Kung ngayon to, siguro madami nang magrereklamo and hindi na lang magtatrabaho. And secondly, ayun, yung added information is yung most native, kagaya ng sabi ko kanina, most native people ay hindi nagkaroon ng benefit economically from French imperialism. Sobrang liit lang talaga yung benefit economically nung para sa mga native people, like 0.5 lang talaga. And mostly sa kanila, from wealthy class pa, wherein hindi deserve ng mga nasa lower class, even in the middle class, na hindi magkaroon ng benefit economically or financially through that work na ginagawa nila, na ginugugol nila for the development of their country. Tapos hindi sila masusuklian ng kita na deserve nila. Ayun. And also yun, lack of Vietnamese participation. Lack of participation in government, not only in Vietnam, but also through to other countries na kinolonize, which is in Laos and Cambodia na kagaya kanina, di ba, hindi nagkaroon ng pagkakataon ng mga native people sa mga countries na to na magkaroon ng participation sa government dahil very skim and ganid itong mga French na gusto nila sila lang yung mamuno. They want to extreme supremacy, ganun. Na kung saan dapat kami lang yung mamuno dahil hindi na namin kayo makokontrol. Di ba? Like, ganun. Hindi lubusan nilang makokontrol yung buong tatlong bansa na ito kung sakali man na magkaroon na pumasok yung sa government itong mga native people ng mga bansang ito. And wherein, dapat nga mas sila yung nandun sa government dahil sila yung nakakaranas. And ayun naman yung nagtatama nila yung mga baluktot na sistema na ginagawa ng France when it comes to their government. And bakit parang ayun, naging question na bakit France yung kung nag-government wherein hindi naman nila ito bansa. But then, kinolonize nga sila. The France control their countries and the France control their whole economic and economical aspects and other matters. And lastly, nagkaroon ng rice consumption decrease wherein hindi nagkaroon ng substitution. Hindi nag-substitute. Substituted. Okay. Tapos that's all for the positive and negative effects of French Indochina imperialism. Miss Jasmine?
So, ayun, bago namin tapusin yung tungkol sa French Indochina is yung last topic namin is yung paano umalis yung French sa Indochina or sa tatlong bansa na kanilang sinakop. So, gaya ng mga nanakop is hindi na rin nila nakayanang kontrolin yun or hindi na nakayanang kontrolin ng French yung Indochina at marami na ring mga bansa ang pumagitan dito kaya nawalan ng control yung French sa pananakop or yung system na bin fall in 1954 marked the French imperialism. At hindi na rin talaga nila na-control yung tatlong bansa dahil naging mas independent na ito no 1945 which is yung Laos, no 1949 is nag-achieve na independence. Sumunod naman yung Cambodia which is 1953 naman. And katulad nga kanina na mas binigyan talagang pansin ng French yung pananakop sa Vietnam kaya mas kinausap pa nila ito muli na sakupin at bigyan ng partial freedom sa bansa nila which is nakaka-question dahil bakit partial freedom lang bansa nila yon pero mas naging open yung Vietnam at siguro naisip nila na mali talaga na yung pamamalakad ng French sa kanila or yung pananakop ng French sa kanila kaya mas nag-gain rin sila ng independence at hindi na ito muling nagpasakop. So ayun, doon nag-end yung pananakop ng French sa Indochina or sa tatlong bansa noong 1954. Dahil nawala na rin yung economic and socio-cultural issues nila. So that's all for French Indochina. I'm Jasmine Bahana.
And I'm Sandra Nicole T. Agustin. And thank you for listening to our discussion.
Thank you. Bye-bye.